Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to another week of Melanin and Moonlight. Welcome to you all. I am one of your hosts, Tyrell Collins.
And I am Vernon Scott. Welcome. It's going to be a great discussion today. How you feeling, Tyrell?
I'm feeling good because you know what we gonna be talking about. Y'all know ever since it was since the first episode of our show, I made mention of a groundbreaking show that was premiering this past week, a soap opera called Beyond the Gates. So we are excited to delve into that, and just spill the tea. Spill the tea about what we thought about the first week and, hopes that we have for it carrying forward, as a show in itself, but also what it does for the soap opera genre. And, for all of our listeners, even if you are not a soap opera fan, obviously this is not something that we're going to be talking about on a weekly, kind of like on a weekly basis. We may throw, some things here and there, but we are going to talk about the genre of soaps in general and what they have given to a lot of other genre of television that we do consume a lot, such as like reality television.
Mhm, mhm.
So very great to delve into this discussion. So, Vern, why don't you kick us off?
Well, there's a lot that I want to jump into at one point. Well, I want to start off with the cliffhangers themselves.
Yeah,
Like, of course, oh, spoiler alert for anybody who may be listen to this yet.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you really do not want to listen to this segment of our podcast, or do not want like spoilers, we suggest like you like fast forward. We what
Yeah.
Vernon will make mention of like a skip detail to skip to the next part of the statement because we don't know what's gonna come out of our mouth.
Not at all. So like automatically, I already knew that soon as we get on the elevator and there's somebody pregnant, I'm like, oh my God, of course this fucking elevator is going to break down. The thing that actually shocked me was the gun situation because I was like, I know this. I know she doesn't have a gun for real. Can we just not do this trope Like, why is the gun never in the safe for one? But I'm just like, let's not let this not be it. And they hinted towards it, and I'm just like, just let it not be it. Let it not be it. And here we go. Now we got a damn gun in the situation. I'm just like, why? Why? It's only week one. Can we wait? Like at the wedding
We had to
scene?
get it out we had to get, again, as the gate said, get it out the gate.
Get it out the gate. Oh my God. Like I'm enjoying it. Like I remember just in general watching some soap operas whenever my grandma's watching it every now and again
Yeah.
when I was younger. But the thing that really got me excited for the genre itself was the have and have nots because I was like, okay, I'm feeling it, I'm liking it, I'm enjoying it until it went a little bit too wild. And then I'm like, oh, this new soon to be fixture into the black community, let me go ahead and hop on it. And I'm glad that I did. I've really enjoyed it. I definitely have my critiques, but overall, I am going to be tuning in next week as well. I've been telling other people, like my friends, like, go ahead and watch it. We need to talk about it. We need to have gossip sessions about these shows. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
have a lot more of that going on. But my first thing, well, I guess my real first thing, I really want to hit this Haley situation.
Okay.
Now, for anyone who's seen the episode, we know Haley got slapped. A deserved slap.
Hey, those are, yes. We have to bring slaps back to the soap. Like they ain't been doing enough of them, and we like a lot of people been needing to be slapped lately across soap canvases. Like,
Listen, like, a friend of mine, before this even happened, we were talking about the show. I was like, there's not going to be really any violence. It's only like the violence is in language, and then every now and again somebody might get shot or poisoned. That's what it is now. And the slap happened. I was like, oh, excuse me. Whoa. Yes, I needed that. But the thing that really, so I looked at it in like because I've been focusing on family dynamics for whatever reason while watching this as well. And I
Mhm.
know soaps are not meant to be the perfect world. They are a great reflection of the how we behave and how we interact with our loved ones and whatnot, minus the random shooting and never mind, let me take that back. Uh, there's they're a good reflection of how we are. So the thing that really stood out to me in the Haley situation, I'm just like, we have the elders here, right? We
Mhm.
have the people who've been through life, who's experienced things, and we recognize that Haley is young and dumb as they are.
Mhm.
Like she's young, she's in her 20s and she's making mistakes that many 20-year-olds will make. And I understand the personal connection that the family had with her. And just to see the vitriol that the family just put all on this young person, and I'm just like, I'm mad at y'all. Y'all, I get the hurt. I truly do get the hurt, but this young girl doesn't know. She really doesn't even know any better. She really thought that her intentions, and granted,
Mhm.
there's other things like she is an adult, she has to be held responsible for the things that she's done, but it's a part of me that's like, but we know this girl comes from a background of having nobody. She's easily manipulated, and we have this situation where this man who is twice her age is showing her love and care like she has never seen before, and she falls from him for him, and we're going to put a lot of that weight on her.
Mhm. Okay.
And just like, well, we hate Bill, whatever, but we're gonna direct a lot of it towards her. That's where I'm just like, I'm mad at y'all.
Okay. So I have a rebuttal for that.
Oh Lord.
So no, I no, as an aspect I do agree with you. And this is what I think about what makes for good writing.
Hmm.
Good writing to me is always about a balanced perspective. No matter if I think that somebody obviously is clearly in the wrong, like I think obviously, of course, Bill and Haley are in the wrong. One of the highlight scenes for me for the soap this week is getting Bill's perspective on Danny's character, where he tells her, "Yeah, I may be you may want to call me trifling and do all these things, but when he left her with her face cracked on that floor, talking about the
Got
fact that you
heard.
are a grown woman. You have to take accountability for the things that you did as well. Now, mind you, Bill is on the shit list right now. Don't get it twisted. But I do like balanced perspectives because even
Hmm.
though I may not, of course, agree with what a character is doing, if they are making it interesting for me to watch, and we need good villains. That's what drives story. Without villains, you would not have a story to tell. So
Hmm.
when it comes to the whole Haley situation, I think something that kept getting reverberated through the nature of the week, even from the daughter Naomi's perspective, it was kind of like, okay, you wanted to do your dirt, meaning her father, Bill, that is. You
Hmm.
wanted to do your dirt, Bill. That's all, okay, that's already grimy as it is. But the fact that you have the nerve to now come to Crestmont, where their community lives, to throw this wedding like in their face because it's what
Hmm.
Haley wanted. I think that is what the aspect is because, like you're saying, Haley is young. She's very naive, very impressionable. She's being obviously wooed and courted by this guy who's twice her age, and so yeah, we have all of those aspects. But I think if it was just the fact of okay, Haley, if you want to quote unquote say stole Bill or whatever kind of language you want to employ with that, okay, that would be one thing to have to
Hmm.
deal with. But now it's like, okay, now that you want to get married here in this community at this, in their place, almost like pretty much in their place of residence,
Hmm.
after what you have done, it's kind of like that's kind of what kept getting reverberated throughout the week. It's like the gall and the audacity
The
for you not to just
audacity.
have the affair that you did, but now you want to get married
And
in the place
invite
that you cheated with.
it,
Like,
like you invited the entire family. Like, why do this? Like that put myself in their shoes. I was like, yeah, slap everybody. Slap
mhm,
everybody because how dare you be someone that we took in, that we cared for, and we showed love to,
Mhm.
and betrayed that trust. That hurt in itself is very hard to get over.
Now,
But that motherfucker
mhm.
Bill,
Yep.
I will always shift back over to him because he is the
Mhm.
older person in this situation who knew what he was doing,
Mhm.
and he deserves all the blame because he. Now, don't get me wrong, because seeing Bill's side and him talking to Danny and clearing the air, so to speak, saying this is real here, like I'm done with you. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of with Bill for now because I'm just like,
But
I
that's what good story. But that's what good story does. It's like even for your villains, even when they doing grimy, downright things, it's like okay, but they kind of hitting on a point though in a scene though. Now it's like I still hate you,
Bill, I
but
still hate you
you can still be having a good read right now, and that's
because
exactly what happened.
I'm like, let her know the truth of this because that's what we need. She
Yeah.
needs to know that you have truly moved on. And I genuinely do not think that he loves Haley as much as he's trying to purport himself to be in
Oh,
love with her.
ex-
Not at all.
yes. And if we get into fan theories, because I'm all because so for anybody to getting to know me, they will know like I have been watching soaps since I was in high school. I actually got into soaps based off of a character from the soap One Life to Live. I saw in a Lifetime movie, so I started watching One Life to Live as a soap opera. Once One Life to Live ended around I think 2010 or 11 or something like that,
Hmm.
some of those characters crossed over into the soap General Hospital. So I started watching General Hospital, and I've been watching that soap since 2011, 2012. So I've been watching soaps, for a little bit, a good minute. And so just to kind of contextualize for our listeners right now, just in case they're like, okay, they've been on this rant. What in the world are they like? What in the world are they talking about? So if you're not familiar with the premise for Beyond the Gates, the show is following a multi-generational members of the wealthy Dupree family, right? They're the first family of a kind of affluent Maryland um, enclave, I guess you would say. And so the family is headed by Anita Dupree, who's a former singer, and her husband Vernon, who's a former politician and civil rights activist. So, as you're getting to know the family, the Duprees, of course, are all over this, gated community that they live in. They have a grandson, Martin, who's a congressman, who we're going to talk about because I have a lot of things to say about the whole Martin aspect. They have so Vernon and Anita. They do have two daughters. Nicole, who's she's a very prominent um,
I think it's like a
psychiatrist, right? Yeah. And then they have another daughter, Danny, who is a
model.
socialite and former model. And so Danny is the one who's at the center of the drama as the series kind of starts out because her, I guess now ex-husband, Bill, is has now decided to not only have an affair, but all getting married to a much younger woman, Haley, who is Bill and Danny's daughter's Naomi's former friend. And so the whole premise of this week is centered on their forthcoming nuptials at Fairmont Crest. And, they're kind of, not necessarily throwing it in Danny's face, but Danny has like vowed to like get revenge,
Mhm.
So that's kind of like where the week is centered on. And of course, we have other characters, other stories that are playing out, but that was like the main crux of the week. And so I said this before me and Vernon started recording. The thing about what I love about what's happening here is that for Beyond the Gates, it's for me it's not setting out to be something that is revolutionary. If you don't like soaps in general, this like really is not a show that's going to change your mind about that. If it's not your type of genre of a show, you're not. I don't think that the Beyond the Gates is going to change that for you. However, I do agree with what I read in a article that what it does do though is that it offers for a new cat for a cast of people, of black and brown people especially, to be showcased in a genre that has always been a unique perspective for us. Black and brown people have always made up a good watch viewership of the soap community. And for over, I want to say 40, 50 years, ever since the inceptions of soaps, we have always been regulated to like the side characters or the characters that are used for plot devices and stories. And even though you of course have, some very prominent black characters and black, soap families, I can think of like the adventures of like Debbie Morgan and I can't remember his name right now, but the whole Jesse and Angie for all, for all my children, or like the Winters family with Shamar Moore, and a lot of those other people. Christophe St. John, rest in peace for the Winters family on Young and the Restless. So you have had very prominent, kind of black people segmented, of course, into the soap opera world. But what Beyond the Gates does is that from the very inception, this show is centered in black and brownness and wealthy black and brownness, which is something that we don't tend to see a lot of times. So it is, just one of those things that offering that kind of perspective for a light that we're not usually seen in is it's gonna do great. It's gonna do great things in that retrospect. And the last thing I'll say, for history's sake, um, getting into like a soap opera like The Gates, it can feel weird for, soap fans, even for somebody like myself, because of course, if you were not around, of course, I know I was not around. If you were not around for the early days, like back during like the 60s and the 70s, for a lot of classic soaps like Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, all these other soaps, you had to like follow along with like characters or go back and watch storylines from like decades ago to figure out what were the relationships and the enemies and the love interests and the romance that are taking place now. The Gates can feel weird to a lot of us that are viewing it because of the fact we're here from the very beginning.
Mhm.
So that's why when Vern and I get into like the breakdown about what were some of our highlights from the week and versus what some things weren't, it's really going to be about what things we hope for that will continue to smooth out with the aspect of the soul. So I just wanted to like give that kind of like just brief overview in history, just in case people are wondering like what what in the world are we talking
Right. Another thing that really stood out to me, and this I know 100% this is the therapist in me that really pointed this out. And
about?
of course, this is something that is seen in many families. That was not specific to the Duprees.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of soaps do this as well, but it is the dismissing of your traumas are the things that you are repressing your
Hmm.
traumas for the sake of namesake. Like
Yeah.
because we are the Duprees,
Hmm. Yeah.
we cannot seem weak. We cannot
Hmm.
really go out. We have to present ourselves in this same way. We know that we have our supporters behind us, and now we have to craft this story. Oh, I'm here for my daughters. We know that, and all this other stuff. Like it it really irks me to see it because I know I've experienced it myself. I know many other people may have experienced it because it's like a constant reminder like these people are actually going through some real things. Like they are experiencing a lot of an adjustment. Like
Yeah.
the soap time frame in itself, all this could have happened in the span of 2 days, but
That,
like,
that's one of those things. If you're not a soap viewer, then it's kind of like, yes, it can be hard because the soap opera is on 5 days out of the week.
right, and and it's just it's so much information that you get, and it's like all of this is just being pushed down further and further and further and further. I'm just like, when are we gonna talk about it? Like, you come to me saying that you want me to go to this wedding because of why? You saying that I just have to have blind faith that you're doing this for our best interest? I need to know what that best interest is, other than the
Yeah,
fact that we are the Duprees and we're going to stand by what Vernon says today and not me. I'm just like, what?
yeah.
But it's
So
so
yeah.
good. It is so
Yeah, it
good.
is. It is. And like, and you know, and you bring up such a great point because one of the great things about soaps for me has always been like the acting that comes out of it. Because
Hmm.
let me tell you, as a soap viewer, I have watched some like, of course, like trash storylines. I'm like, what in the hell are we doing? Like when characters are acting out of order or like something that's not really themselves or something that's not giving justification to why they're all of a sudden acting like this. You guys, you know, for anybody that's not familiar, the thing about soaps, the reason why they have such longevity is because when soap writers always come in and out. So you are never going to have the same set of soap writers. You may have people who are at the head of the table for soaps, you know, for maybe a couple years. And then, like, sometimes those people get switched in and out. New head writers decided they want to take characters and do it different directions. And, you know, now we're actually in the era of, you know, it's kind of like, you can reach into the archives and you know fans will tell you what you need to know, but they rather just rewrite people's whole history or forget sometimes people's history. So we're hoping that, of course, the gays does not fall into that. But one of the things that drives a soap opera is I love to watch the performances. It could be the most simplistic story. It could just be a story about take for instance Danny. I mean, like
Hmm.
watching her this week, watching Carla Mosley in this role as Danny this week, it's like the friend in me to her would be like, girl, you are drop dead gorgeous. Like, get over Bill and move on with your life. The soap fan in me is like, girl, slap his ass and get your revenge. Like, so again, it's a duality where two things can be true because you have to have things that drive your drama. You're not going to have if they're going to layer out pieces of answers, new mystery and intrigue is going to happen because again, a soap opera is not a one day a week show and that they go off in the summer and they come back in the fall. The soap opera is on all year round besides for when they have news coverage interruptions or holidays or you know things like that, but the soap opera is on all year, so you are not going to
Hmm.
get an answer, a direct answer pretty much to larger storylines until a few months down, and hopefully they try to do something different as far as the pacing because the pacing for soaps is something that people complain about all the time in the soap community. It's like we have a great canvas cast of characters. In my personal opinion, I don't believe any story really should last more than 3 months. It's like let's give light to other characters, let's have a balanced perspective of stories. If you are going to continue a story, at least not let's not have it be the same beat of the same story because I have watched that where it's like, okay, you created an interesting story here, but because of the fact you drug it out for too long, it's like now by the time the reveal happens and all this, it's like I don't care anymore. You know, so like that's just my thing
Yes.
of as a viewer. I'm like, this is the reason why you have a canvas cast of characters. You know, you can go into balanced aspects of stories. And even when we're talking about contracts and negotiations, yes, people don't understand that contractually, when you have an actor, like say for instance, like Anita, Tamara Tooney and Clifton Davis, who play our, you know, foundational characters, Anita and Vernon. They are the anchors for the family. Now, they probably are contracted to appear in so many episodes. However, the key to the show's success is making sure that, yes, they are the anchor. We want to see them driving story and things like that. But it does get to a point where, okay, even if they have to appear in a certain amount of episodes, they don't always need to be inserted to everybody's storyline. They don't need to be the drivers of, you know, one story here, another story there, another story there. You know, and so again, it's a very delicate balancing act. And yeah, of course, people are not going to get it right all the time. I don't think anybody's expecting that. But I do hope that with the fact that this is a new soap, I'm hoping that the writers and the creators that they have taken very succinct feedback from the soap fan community about the things that they wish were different about the soaps. Yes, watching a soap, I suspend disbelief. Soaps make up laws, they make up rules when it comes to medical things. This is not a live
Mhm.
in reality aspect. Like I can suspend things for a soap opera. Now, I don't suspend things when they come completely out of, just way out of left field to try to connect two dots to make it make sense. No, that don't work for me. But yes, there is an element of suspension of disbelief you have to have with watching a soap opera. And, again, I just think for the nature of this week, I think the reason why it got the ratings that it did, not just because of the fact it's a new show and a new soap, but it gave us all the great things like a soap does. It gave us intrigue. It gave us a little bit of mystery. It gave us romance. Some of obviously the steamy scenes we were seeing. It gave
Mhm.
us family. It gave us grounding. Like those are all the things that make a soap what it is. And so now we just have to see how it takes form.
And I say the beauty of this past week is just even just experiencing the introduction and just knowing some of the themes that tend to happen in soap operas as well.
Yeah,
Like shout out to the writers for especially because I know like with soap operas in general or any kind of visual media and you're trying to be introduced to a new character, you have to get a lot of the information about who they are. Like even with Danny's daughter, whose name is escaping me, the one that is the social media influencer.
I think her name is Kelsey. Yeah,
We wouldn't know what her job is if they didn't mention that she's a social media influencer like three
right.
times in a row. Like
Exactly. Yeah, there's
without
a
that,
yeah, there's a lot that you have to do as far as repetition because
right.
you have especially like in the first week, and that is something that was like in my critique that it was like it's not a bad thing, but I think it's something that will like
Mhm.
die down as we like go forward because like the first week has to be a lot of repetitiveness about what people
Mhm.
do, who people are to each other because again, you're introducing like 8, 9, 10 people at a time, almost at a time. So we need to have that reminder of establishing connections. And I think that that will be something that changes in the dialogue as the show continues
Mhm.
on. We won't need as many constant reminders.
Yeah, like I remember the scene where the nurse came in randomly. I was like,
Mhm.
"Whoa, hold up. Okay, why are we being introduced to this nurse? What is her relevance to the family? What's going on?" All right, I know since the nurse is here, I don't know if we're just introducing her right now because by the end of this episode or the episode of this week, my person that I thought was going to be in the hospital was Vernon, and I thought he was going to get poisoned. Just to be real, that's where my mind was at because I was like, he is a anchor in this family. Everybody's relying on him. Let's go ahead and take him out so we can get this drama going. Like, come on, he got another job that he has to work anyways. Let's go ahead and put him in this damn hospital bed. So
Oh,
it's
it's too
like.
funny.
I'm already trying to figure out the relevance of these characters, but the beauty of these things, especially when you know their professions, you know how these characters are going to end up interacting. We know
Mhm.
that Nicole's husband, I think he's the
Okay,
police
Ted.
officer. Um,
Uh, no, I think it's not Nicole's husband, Ted, but it's Naomi. I think it's her Naomi. I think it's her husband, Danny's
Her
daughter.
husband,
Her husband,
yes.
the
We
police.
know that he's going to end up being involved with this case about how old girl got into the hospital and all that. Like all this stuff
Yeah,
is just
yeah,
fascinating,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
And
gonna take, and it's definitely gonna take a minute. It's definitely gonna
it
take.
is.
Now, something that I did want to point out, because as much as we do love the show, I also, of course, I'm very hyper, critical of media as well. And it
Hmm,
doesn't
hmm,
deter me from watching something. I just, it's from my personal viewpoint and my opinion that I just hope it's something that, maybe they take into account or, maybe I'm alone, alone in my thoughts. I never know these things, but it's just things that I notice. So I'm gonna bring
hmm,
up each of these points, and we really want to talk about these aspects. So I want to know your take on this as well.
hmm.
So one of the first things that I had a critique about was with the character of Chelsea being a social media influencer. So I love the fact that they are doing so because again, this is a multi-generational family. So of course,
Hmm.
when you're dealing with like a younger person, you're going to be talking about aspects about social media. Now, the one critique that I had, and this was more so like in the dialogue, was there was I can't remember if it was like the first day episode, second day, I really can't remember. But Chelsea made like a comment in saying like Oh yeah, because like she was gonna be big or be bigger than like the Kardashians, or like something that was referencing the Kardashians. And now I want to know your opinion on this, because even though I'm not heavily involved like with the nature of like being like on TikTok and like a social media kind of like age that we live in, I kind of felt like having her to make that statement feels a little bit dated in a way. I feel like for somebody that, yeah, I can see like Chelsea making that connotation, because like the Kardashians being like, okay, when you think about reality, or, like influencer culture, like the Kardashians were really like a staple in that. However, I feel like Chelsea would be a little bit removed from that. It's kind of like knowing your history, like being respectful of your history, but not necessarily something that you identify with. But I can see why the reference would be made, because Chelsea is, older. She's not like she's like 14, 15 years old. Like she's like a
Mhm.
full grown, like full grown woman. But I don't know. It's something like when she said that, I just kind of thought in my head, like, would she make that reference to like the Kardashians, or would like she like make that reference to like somebody that's like in the nature of like her like like our generation? Because I would think that Chelsea's around like our age.
Yeah, that is a like I didn't even think about it.
Mm,
I will say if anyone of the Kardashian lineage or that family group from that show,
mhm.
the reference probably would have been rang a lot more true if it was what's the youngest one? Is it Kylie Jenner?
Maybe so.
The youngest one.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was her, it would be more youthful. But I
Mhm.
think specifically they use the Kardashians in general to make it relevant to the influence. So the older people who would not even know of because look, if she would have said anybody that's a popular social media person right now, I would not know. The only reason I know of Kai Cenat, because I know he's very popular, is
Yeah,
because I randomly see clips every now and again. But
right.
like
Mhm.
outside of that, if it's
Yeah,
not somebody that is really, really popping on TikTok that's like
right.
28 through 36, I would not know who they
Yeah.
are.
And so I mentioned that because I don't really feel to just believe that, in order to write a social media influencer story, that you need
Hmm.
to just like have younger writers or anything like that. I don't believe, because I don't like to get into like the ages thing, like just because you are a certain age that you're out of touch with what's going on, or anything like that. But what I
Hmm.
do hope is that for what they write for Chelsea as a character, her being a
Hmm.
social media influencer, I'm hoping that they have done their research and their consulting work when they are trying to for whatever story that they're going to write for her, into delving into nuances
Hmm.
about living as a influencer. And so hopefully they will have people on their writing team that will tell consult with them, and and like I say, that doesn't necessarily have to be younger people, but
Hmm.
like having that kind of go to in that reference, because something that is very prominent with the soap opera is that, again, as much as we have love having our black creators and things like that, a lot of times your creators and your writers and stuff, they are of a older
Hmm.
generation. So
Yeah.
sometimes when they're trying to write for like a younger audience, it doesn't necessarily hit the way that they think that it does. It doesn't make it like bad or anything like that, but it doesn't almost like create that equilibrium in a
Yeah,
sense.
it's not as realistic as you would want,
Yeah.
especially in the way that they talk and the language that they use, because young people, the hopes are that young people will fall in love with these characters as well, like
Yes.
many other younger people in
Mhm.
older generations fell in love with soaps because they saw themselves in at least the younger characters. So
Exactly.
I definitely
Exactly.
get you there. And I think what may be an issue here is the fixation, like because they are rich, are
Mhm.
from a wealthy background, which is a lot easier to write for in terms of
Mhm.
language,
Right.
because formal English is what you're going to have
Mhm.
to deal with a lot more rather
Yeah.
than colloquialisms.
Right.
Like this family, they are a representation of a prominent black
Mhm.
family, so they're not going to use as much AAVE as we want. Will there be
Exactly.
moments? Of course,
Mhm.
but it's not going to be heavy. But you may see a lot more of that with old girl with the bike,
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
which I that. shook the heck out of me, but we don't have to talk about her. But yeah, I really do. I think that a lot of it is just them learning the new language so that
Yeah,
they can adjust it
exactly.
to her character. So
Yeah.
valid point.
Okay. And second point out of the three things I had criticisms about for this week. Second thing was this was just a minute thing, and I'm not quite sure if they would change this or not. Probably not. Of course, we love eye candy. We love them, we love to see like our men and stuff like that. Obviously, we love to see our beautiful women as well doing their thing. Now, something that I noticed for the men that have been cast. You have, of course, like your Playboy and Andre, who's like flirting with like the nurse Ashley and stuff like that.
Hmm.
You have Nicole's husband Ted, of course. You have Bill, of course, who's like our villain right now. Something that I've noticed with like at least, then you have, of course, Martin, who we're going to get to in a second. One thing I've noticed for all of these, very, handsome, black men, and it's again, I say this with a grain of salt. I wasn't feeling necessarily the fact that all of them have pretty much like the same look,
Mm,
especially when it comes to like their hair. Now, mind you, I rock pretty much what a lot of them do. Like when my haircut's not cut now for anybody that's watching us, online. Like, but I typically have my haircut, very, line trimmed, short fade, like things like that. So I get it. However, I felt like, of course, with our women, you know, anybody knows that when you're creating a show, the fashion tells a story in
hmm.
itself. It tells you, what kind of character you're dealing with. A lot of times for men, that's a little bit more difficult to do because men are not necessarily always seen as like the most fashion forward people. Like, you could put a pair of jeans on and a jacket for a man, and that's pretty much it. So I think that a lot of times with men, you have to come up with a lot of different kind of creative things to do. And that's something that I kind of think that they missed a little bit of the mark with. The men, it's kind of like, even though this was the first week and you're getting used to all the characters, it's kind of like at some point I didn't know like the distinction between like Martin and Andre because like or even like the police officer who's like Naomi's husband. Like it's like
Hmm.
all you can line all three of them up right now and they pretty much all have like the same look
Yes, they
almost.
do.
So, I just felt like, in not to say obviously I'm loving the cast, of course, but it's just I would have loved for me as a personal viewer to, actually have our black and brown men, have some sorts of like different tastes. Like I know coming, as the story is set in this prominence, of course, it's like, okay, yeah, there's certain aesthetics and looks that you have to like go for. Like Martin being the
Hmm.
congressman, you're probably always gonna see him, in some sort of like formal attire and, things like that, being more refined. But it's just, for the nature of like the aesthetic for like the men overall, it's like, yes, very handsome men, great, golden. But it's like, to
Hmm.
me, they just all kind of felt like they almost had like a semblance of like the same look
That
versus the women.
that is a good point because there was a moment when I was just like trying to figure out, isn't this the same man who just came up in here and was flirting with the nurse already? Like, but it
Right.
was a different man. They just look exact. They
Yeah,
are
they
cookie
look
cutter.
so much. Yeah, they look so much alike. And I'm not saying that, of course, we love, brothers, with our dreads and,
Hmm.
different sorts of hairstyles. But, I just, I think that, that's one of those things where you have to still, even though this is a black led soap, and things like that, there's still a lot of things you have to placate to,
Hmm.
white audiences. And that's something that I want to make mention of when we get to Martin. Um,
We on the
so
same page.
I just feel like, the whole thing about, the aesthetic for the men. I'm hoping that, of course, with the actors and what they're comfortable with, because all of their haircuts were on point, they
Hmm.
all was lined up. Like, not to be mistaken, they looked good. It's just that they all pretty much had like almost a semblance of the same look.
And it screams, especially now that we're having the conversation. This is also a lot of my own turmoil that I was dealing with when I was a lot younger,
Hmm.
about what men's hair is supposed to be,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And there was not enough freedom. especially if you look a certain type of way, for us to experiment with our hair, or if you didn't match a certain sexuality, meaning
Mhm.
openly,
Right.
flamboyantly gay, right? There was not enough room or space for men in general, black men in general, to express ourselves outside, like with our hair.
Mhm.
So in having this conversation, and it does fit with this group of people, especially if we look at the political landscape of respectability. And a
Exactly.
respectable black man is one who has a short, low cut, nice trim
Mhm.
beard, suit and tie, and not a threat to society. So, like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
appreciate a little bit more
A little bit
diversity
more
in this space.
diversity. Yeah,
Go
when it
ahead and
comes to
put that
it.
Medea wig on, that Shamar Moore braids on this
Oh
man.
Lord, no,
It
we
is
ain't gotta get
okay.
that bad. We ain't gotta get that bad. But yeah, so it's something that maybe, I'm hoping that the show, like, they decide to do something, do something to do with, find
Mhm.
something to do with. But we'll see.
Mhm.
Now, last thing I want to bring up. Okay, talking about Martin, and the reason why I say Martin for last is because obviously, if you watch the show, Vernon and us both being, Black SGL men, Martin is our quintessential for right now, black male, same gender loving, person on the
Mhm.
canvas. The positive that I will say about Martin is not, the fact that he obviously fits into like the family of being like very well and articulate, but I do like the fact that as we have watched the first week unfold, whatever, yeah, obviously Bill is of course covering or blackmailing Vernon and Anita about something that he has covered up for Martin. That's
Mhm.
been made abundantly clear, even though we don't know what it is. And so I do like the fact that not only do we have a black, queer character who is a young black professional and a congressman, but we
Mhm.
also have the fact that he is also driving story because the secret or the blackmailing aspect that Bill has over Vernon and Anita, who are a matriarch and a patriarch of our family, is they're giving into his demand, Bill's demands, because Bill is covering something that Martin has done. So I like the
Mhm.
fact that Martin is kind of like in the center of like driving story. Now, two critiques that I have about Martin's story right now. So I, when it comes to looking at any type of love story, I do at the end of the day, I always follow chemistry, no matter color, creed, nationality, whatever it is. I always follow chemistry because even if I don't particularly care for two people being together, if the chemistry is there, I can rock with it. I can follow it.
Mhm.
Now, Martin is a character who is married to a white man. His name is Smitty. And they also are raising two teenagers. And they had to have one of the teenagers be named Tyrell. So, we have
I
that.
told you Tyrell is a common name.
Like yeah, so they had to have a Tyrell. So one of the things though that struck me is because I'm a fan of love, no matter what color it comes in. However, as a black SGL man, I was really hoping that we would actually get a kind of black male love story. I'm just going to be frank. That's my opinion. That's what I love to see that. I think it needs to be showcased more. And not to say that because him and Smitty are just starting out and it looks like
Mhm.
there may be obviously some trouble in the water, so it's not to say we wouldn't eventually get that. But I had to think about the visibility politics about
Mhm.
why having Martin marry this very obviously young professional black handsome, SGL man be married to a white man. I think it comes from a number of reasons. The writers and producers know that a significant part of their audience is gay, bi, queer males. But they also know a significant part of their straight, non queer female audience is uncomfortable with male affection, and
Mhm.
that has always been seen across the soap. You only have maybe a few soap head writers that have ever written what we would call like steamy love scenes or very prominent affection between men. And usually, when that has happened, it's usually been white centered, of course,
Hmm.
because when you have something that is white centered, it makes it more palatable for audience. And that has always been my argument about showcasing interracial, particularly black and white, SGL love story, kind of like queer love stories. Again, I want to make this very clear. I love chemistry. I love to see people in love. So when it comes to that aspect, yes, I have a lot of favorite interracial couples. However, from my positionality as a black SGL man, that is something, I want to see more of black male love. So, but again, I think that there's a visibility politics with that. My second comment to the whole nature of Martin and Smitty, I hope Beyond the Gates does not go down this road. We see throughout the week Danny, have this, steamy sex scene with Andre. We see the more chase aspect of like Danny and her husband Ted. We even see obviously this like longing and affection, not necessarily like a makeout session or anything between Vernon and Anita.
Hmm.
However, when it came to the scene with Martin and Smitty being his husband, we didn't really get any type of like affection in that scene. So even if the two of them are having problems, the way that I would have pictured the scene, or what I would have liked as a viewer for the scene, is like him coming in, kissing his husband. The two of them sat on the couch, hand in hand, or, some type of affection. Like, I don't need to necessarily have like a full on, like, steamy love scene between the two of them, just yet or anything like that. I don't believe that, because I believe that all couples are different. I don't believe that to be a soap couple, you need to just be hot and heavy all the time.
Hmm.
That's personally for me as a viewer. I don't need that. I like the fact that different couples bring different things to a canvas. So I'm not saying that they need to just be ripping each other's clothes off the minute that they see each other or anything like that. But I was a bit disappointed with the lack of affection between both of them. And again, this is just the first week, so this may not be a thing that continues. But as as a black SGL man who has seen this, happen, and again, for anybody who's older audience, I'm pretty sure obviously this has been longer for you and representation that you've seen as a younger person. It was kind of like I was really looking forward to seeing dynamics between him and Smitty. And personally, I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do with the affection aspect
Hmm.
of their interactions, and that was something that I did not get, and I'm hoping that it's something that will be rectified, or like I say, this is a marriage that starts out, maybe both of them will have obviously love interests down the line, because again, it's a soap opera, anything can happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion about what did you think about the Martin and Smitty dynamic.
Funny enough, I didn't even think about the affection part, but I do want to hit on the racial aspect because, like you said, same. I genuinely do not care about them being an interracial couple. Um, the only thing that's bothersome to me is just the lack of seeing same gender loving men and that are black
Mhm.
in couple, be it with struggles, be it without struggles. I just want to see it because every other place that I look is always some black guy with a white guy. And I'm just like, why do we have to keep doing this? Like
Yeah.
the only actually that's going to be a lie. I was going to say the only piece of media that I can remember that has a healthy or semi affectionate gay couple was going to be Pose, but I give Pose a little bit because they did what they needed to do. But it outside of just that, you is a rarity.
Yeah.
Um, so I was hoping, especially when it came out that he is gay, because I was like, maybe he is gay. I know this is gay man. Maybe he's going to be playing a gay character. I don't know. We
Mhm.
shall see it as time goes past. Because look, so people be gay. Love it though. But I'm like, let's see where this goes. And then he comes home to his husband, and we have a whole white man. And I'm just like, okay, do do black men with other black men find happiness? Like, what are we saying?
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like, okay, we need to get into a different narrative. And you see, this goes back
Yes.
to what I was saying about when you have a creator and you have writers who are part of a very older generation. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, we have to get past like the comfortability of seeing two men together. Okay, fine, we've done that. But again, still to placate to a majority kind of white audience.
Hmm.
Now, and it's even like I will say like a cis woman audience. Like, we have to placate and say, okay, if we're gonna have this black man who's a congressman in this very like official, kind of capacity, we have to pair him with a white man to make it palatable for audience. That's just
Hmm.
that's just the bottom line of the truth. And
Yeah.
so, as you're saying, it's kind of like, but for your black and brown, men, for us brothers, we need to see more progressive narratives. Even
Hmm.
if, obviously it's a soap opera, we're going to have drama. But one of the reasons why I liked the Disney short series is called Culprits. If you haven't seen Culprits, go on Disney Plus and see that. It actually showcased a black SGL superhero or anti-hero depending on your take, and he actually was married to a black man and they had a family and they actually had a family.
I had to watch that.
And that was a driving force. So again, it was a mini series, 8 episodes, really great. But it was just wonderful to see this black man in a heroic role, or kind of anti-hero role, like however you want to classify it, and to the fact that his family is grounded in blackness. Yes, there's some secrecy going on and stuff like that. But it was just really great to see. It really great to see that representation. Like I say, even if you don't really want to make stories, like us, not necessarily dynamic, we're always dynamic, but it's kind of like,
Hmm.
okay, can I just get two black men who, are domesticated? Can I just see that for representation? Like, even if you ain't even have them to have much story, like, can I just see it? Like, let's
Yes.
start there. And then we can get into nuances about how we can, write for them because it's important. I think that no matter what kind of couple you're writing, again, I follow chemistry. If people have
Hmm.
chemistry, I rock with it. I rock with it, no matter what I feel personally about the couple. However, as a black SGL man, again, like you were bringing up, like I'm tired of turning on my screen and just seeing our black men, just with only white partners. Like that
Hmm.
is not the only love story or like aspects of life that you can tell. So it's like, and what I feel like Beyond the Gates can do is that if you wanted to be not necessarily groundbreaking, but let's actually delve into the complexities of writing for two black SGL
Hmm.
characters navigating a marriage, because I feel like not to make it palatable for audience, but just like what soap operas have been known to do, soap operas hit it out the box when they do human impact stories. Because soap operas were some of the first genre and segment to introduce the HIV and AIDS epidemic on television, when we were talking about a lot of otherworldly events that were going on. Soap opera, when we talk about bullying, one of my favorite bullying storylines was a storyline on One Life to Live a year or two before they ended. I love that bullying story that they told. So when soap operas do choose to do human impact stories, those are the stories that really resonate with
Hmm.
audience the most. And I feel like, you can't do that without understanding some of the nuances about what happens when black men are in a relationship together.
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to get to that understanding to even get to that point. But yeah, it's like just like you said, it's like, okay, I'm excited for Martin's character. I'm all here for the drama. I'm even trying to see, what the dynamics between him and Smitty are. But it's kind of like in the back of my mind, it's just I roll my eyes when it's
Yes.
like, he comes into the house and like he's with a white man. I'm just
Like, I found myself thinking, like, just cheat on this white man with a black dude. Then I'm like,
Exactly.
let's not
Let's get
have
into
that.
it over.
I'm like, let's not do that because then it's not gonna sit right with me because now we're using this black man as a tool
Yeah.
for their relationship development. So I don't want that either. And then
No.
I even thought about, okay, what if Smitty happened to have actually been a black man? Yeah, I would have been happy to see that, but I would have been pissed off if later on in the series they have relationship issues and
Hmm.
then he leaves this black man and his savior happens to be a white man. And then I was just like, you know
Exactly.
what, throw it away. Throw it
There is
away.
no 100%, like method. Again, I'm here for the drama. I'm here for the storytelling.
Mhm.
But it's like it needs to be done right.
It does need to be done right.
So
Now,
yeah.
if it doesn't work out, let's see dating. Let's see him
Yeah.
experiencing relationships with different people. It can be another white man right after Smitty. It can be a
Hmm.
black man, and we get to go with him on
Hmm.
finding this connection.
Right.
I would love
And
to see
here's
that.
and this is another thing that I hope that they don't do. If for any reason they break him and Smitty up, I do not want to see us going back to the storytelling of like, oh, the next relationship that, Martin gets into has to be something that's DL or something that's hidden or anything like that. Because the one thing I
Exactly.
will say that I have enjoyed about our media lately and the queer community is that, and it's not to say I am going on record to say coming out narratives and coming out stories are all were and always will be important to tell. However, I do enjoy the fact that for a lot of queer stories we are telling now, even for the nature of Martin, it was automatically known that Martin was openly gay, like,
Hmm.
and as a congressman. So like that wasn't like a focal point of the actual story with him. Like there's mystery and there's intrigue surrounding around what he did and what Bill has on him, but not necessarily about his sexuality. So again, that's something that I do like. I do want to point out as a positive. Like our
Yeah.
sexuality doesn't necessarily need to be the focal point of somebody's story. Like we are whole
Hmm.
individuals. And
Yeah.
so one of the great things I've loved about how we've ventured into new media, especially with queer stories, is that it's not just centered on the nature of coming out stories or the whole like living in the closet, like living in the closet sort of story. So I think that we have done a good job in moving past those narratives. Not to say that those
Hmm.
narratives are not still important, but I do hope that they don't backtrack because I think that they did
Yeah.
a great job with the introduction of Martin's character by having his story not to be centered on his sexuality.
Yeah, I agree. That was one of the wins that I liked about his character as well because that was one of the notes that I made too is like we're
Mhm.
not dealing with gay trauma. We're not dealing with the fact that, the family has to make an adjustment to his queerness. It's just we get into this environment and everybody's like, Martin, I love you. Let's go ahead. Like, how you been? How's your mama? How's your sister? We are
Yeah,
having genuine conversations. How's your husband doing? How's the kids? We're having
exactly.
conversations like he's a whole human being, like he is. And it's
Mhm.
not really, we're not having to find that moment of, oh, how do they not like him? Why are they not accepting him? And not, we're not having that same old argument over and over again. We're at a place where people automatically accept him. He's a part of the family. Everybody loves his husband for what we know right now. The kids are welcome and loved and cared for and cherished. All this other stuff is nothing but positive or healthy relational dynamics
Yeah,
with Martin, and any issue that he has is not because the man is gay.
exactly.
And that I would have to say 100% kudos to them for doing that,
Yes.
because that does get tiring because it's like, when can we move past the
Move past
trauma?
this. Yes.
We
You
can
know,
recognize that it's
yeah.
there. We can recognize that it happens, but it does not have to be the narrative of every single queer person in media. Like, how many
Mhm.
people have to come out this year like,
Exactly.
on the new show? How many people have to be kicked out of their family and then the family brings them back? Now, I would love to see uh uh some media where the person is kicked out and they don't accept their family back after they learn their lesson. That would be interesting and new. But other than
Mhm.
that, I'm
Yeah.
tired of seeing the trauma.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, let's get into, more dynamic, storytelling. So, but yeah, so that is like the first week of the gates. Like, but I mean, Vern, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up as far as like critique or highlight from the week? Anything you're particularly interested to see about, not necessarily with the characters themselves, but just, moving forward with the show.
I'm sold on this side narrative, the side story with Nicole, uh,
Mm, yeah.
and the woman who the the um the baby mama who's trying to get her daughter inside this house because I
Mhm.
was like, bitch, what? How did we end up here? Like,
Yeah, so yeah, there's either two things that are happening because immediately when I saw like the lady who's playing like the mother, Leslie, and her daughter Ava conspiring or whatever, and the fact that she had that look when she got onto the elevator looking at Ted,
mhm,
I'm just going to throw out my theory. I think that it's one of those things. I don't think that Ted is a cheater. I think we're pretty much ever since him and Danny met, as they tended to say in their story, they've been in love ever since. I really don't think any type of like affair was going on or anything.
mhm,
This may be a classic aspect, which they do on soaps all the time. And of course, we always have movies dealing with both the women and the men side of it, fatal attraction.
mm,
It may have been one of those things where Ted was involved with her, met obviously even before he met Danny. And, now she feels that the life that he's built with Danny is rightfully hers, or, something along those lines. But I don't know if Ted is a cheater or was having an affair, with Danny and sometimes it would kind of like blow my mind, especially because it's like, okay, let's not make that a thing where it's like all of our
put
black
that
men
no,
cheat. Like, let's not
don't
do
put
that.
that in the atmosphere. Don't put that in,
Don't put that in the atmosphere. But I really do
let
think
it be
the
built.
dynamic that we've been seeing, the little dynamic we have seen of Ted and not Danny, Nicole,
Mhm,
the dynamic that we have seen between Nicole and Ted, I don't think that it's been like the whole cheating or affair type of thing. It's something that probably maybe he had like a maybe like a one night stand with her in the past. Like if he was to see her, like would he even recognize her?
mm,
So yeah, but the fact that like she has done this, like like of course everything that happened with the assistant ingraining her daughter now into Nicole's practice and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, yes, let's do it. First week, let's get some entry, let's get some stories going.
they did that. They did that. Who do you think is going to deliver the baby? The nurse or who was out? Who else? Was it Andre?
Yeah, Andre and yeah, Ashley. I think that both of them may end up doing, and I think that doing something like this is going to have them bring them like closer together because this is also a classic story of good girl, good white girl, kind of like likes the not necessarily the bad boy because I don't think Andre's necessarily a bad boy. He's just more like that free spirited kind of person.
Hmm.
Since he's a photographer, he's traveled all over and stuff like that, and I don't know. I just always have these things about like people messing up a happy home. Like even though Ashley, you can see like she likes the flirtation and stuff with Andre, even though she has her boyfriend and her partner is like, all right, I got to see how that's gonna play out. But
Listen,
but yeah,
I will say one thing. I'm not really too into white men like that, but Ashley boyfriend when he came up screams up. Okay,
all
girl.
right, all right. I'm like, all right.
Excuse me.
No, but you're right. Like, I was more concentrated like the whole body wise thing because I'm like, baby, him and them jeans, like the way them jeans hugged him, like he need to be, on the farm somewhere.
I was like, oh my, okay. Well then.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Y'all
so
go ahead and do your little
definitely.
makeout thing.
So look, definitely, like I say for our fans out here, if you don't really watch soaps, don't even bother. But even if you just wanted to tune into an episode just for the eye candy that's going on, it's like to, look up look up the cast, look up some pictures. Look up some stills from the episodes.
Oh
And
God. Oh.
also something before we do end, something that I am hoping that we do not get into like a kind of romance and love kind of aspect of ageism that we tend to talk about, I am hoping that we also see some romance with Vernon and Anita as well. Like, just
Oh
because they
yeah.
are our patriarch and our matriarch does not mean that once you are past a certain age that we don't need to, see some loving. Like, no, you ain't gotta have no, because soaps have never been, I don't think, necessarily known for having like scantily, like thing, because they're on daytime television. But it's like, I want to see, obviously some romance going on for Anita and Vernon as well. Like they ain't, have this family, for no reason, for no reason.
Oh, okay.
So let's just see some romance for them as well.
Mm. Oh, yes, yes. All right. Well, I have no last words. Anything
Yeah.
else?
No, before we do close out, we would just like to, send some condolences and rest in peace. We have had some great, celebrities to pass away recently. So I just want to shout out first, if you were a fan of like Harriet the Spy when you were young, my favorite show on television, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If you've seen her like in movies like Ice Princess and some other television. Rest in peace to Michelle Trachtenberg. Faithfully, unfortunately, passed at a young age, 39 years old. So rest in peace to her. And of course, very heavy in the, just overall in the world, but especially black culture and community. Rest in peace to Angie Stone.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
definitely some heavy hits, for celebrity, passings in our world this week.
that is true. All right, if all hearts and minds are clear, that is today's episode. Thank you all so much for listening to this rambling of Beyond the Gates. We promise next week is going to be something a little bit different. I know for sure next week I'm going to be talking about Could Have Been Love, because that show. Oh my God. So I'm looking forward to it. Until next time, y'all take care.
Bye now.